So your experience with the USL sort of provided you with a segue into your later career as an entertainer.
Oh, yes, yes, it did. We ended up actually, well, traveling around the world, singing and performing, and we would land in, say, Spain, and we'd go over to the Torrejon Air Base and say, hey, we're singers, can we perform? And they would hire us. So we did a lot of traveling around the world, and yeah, Vietnam was definitely a catalyst. Matter of fact, when we came back from Vietnam the first time, we wanted to go back. And we were in Chicago. I had a scholarship to Roosevelt University, Chicago Music College, and Jennie was going to Roosevelt University as well. Well, we quit school and we joined an all-girl band called the She Five from Appleton, Wisconsin, to return to Vietnam. So we went to Las Vegas, we performed at the Four Queens Hotel, and then we went to Hawaii. And then when we were in Hawaii, one of the girls, her husband who was in Vietnam, he was about to be sent home. So she said, I don't want to go to Vietnam. So the group broke up in Hawaii. So we needed a job. So we went to the Outrigger Hotel in Waikiki, and we performed at Davy Jones Locker. And we were performing for all of the R&R people. We were called the Twin Sisters too. And this is an article, Dr. Richard Kelly, who owns all of the Outrigger Hotels, we remained friends with him for 40 years. As a matter of fact, I'm about to go to the Grammys with he and his wife in February and some other friends. And he still owns the Outrigger Hotels. He's got 25 of them now. He's about to build one in China. But he will write these wonderful articles about us. When we were the Twin Sisters too, and these are pictures that he printed in his Saturday briefing, and it's a newsletter that he gives to people who work for the Outrigger Hotels.
Well, that was great.
Thank you.
There were good, lots of good contacts. I suppose not everybody was, obviously not everybody was as unhelpful, shall we say, as David Letterman.
Oh, no, that's true. That's true. Actually, when we were performing at the Comedy Store, we were called the Frankel Twins. There was another comedian there that actually Jennie went out with a couple of times, and his name was Jay Leno. And he, as not appreciative as David Letterman was, Jay Leno was an absolute wonderful person. He was just terrific and great. As a matter of fact, to this day, whenever we would talk about it, we would say, you know, we had a choice. When we suggested a comedian to write for The Tonight Show for Joey Bishop, we could have chosen Jay Leno or David Letterman, and we chose David Letterman. But what's great about, I guess, fate is that cream rises to the top, and Jay Leno actually ended up getting his own show, so that was terrific. But he's just a wonderful person, and you know, actually when Jay Leno came out to perform at the Comedy Store, he too was making $25 a night introducing people, but I believe he was living in his car. He had a motorcycle and a car. Now I remember him coming up to our apartment with his motorcycle helmet. Yeah.
That's quite a memory.
Thank you.
You performed all over the world, you said.
Yes.
How did that come about? Would you just get on a plane and go somewhere and then find a job, or did you have the job before you went, or how did you manage that?
Well, actually, when we were at the Outrigger Hotel, we still really wanted to go back to Vietnam. So we put together a group of 3 Hawaiian men. One of them was Capono, of Cecilio and Capono, and he was our guitarist. And then we had a drummer, and we had a bass guitar, and a guitarist, and we ended up being booked in Vietnam. So we played in Thailand at the Tug, and then we were about to go to Vietnam with these guys, and the war was winding down then. And we didn't feel comfortable about it because of the agent involved. So we told the guys, we said, you know what, we don't want to go any further. And you can come back with us, or you can stay. And they decided to stay. They ended up being almost held hostage by this agent for a year. He finally let them go home, but he made them keep he kept all of their instruments and made them promise they would come back. They did not. So, and since then, Kapono, I was with Cecilio and Kapono, he's become very famous in Hawaii. So we ended up being sort of alone in Thailand. We performed at the Siam Intercontinental, and then we had a choice of going back home or continuing around the world. So we continued around the world, and we went to Greece and Israel and Tehran and Iran and England and Spain, and ended up back in Chicago.
And you obviously didn't have the same agent then.
Right.
How did you manage that? Did you have an agent who booked your what would you call them, your stays, or did you just go on your own? Or I'm interested to know how you managed that.
Well, we did have an agent briefly in Hawaii, but really mostly we would just land in a place and knock on a door and say, hey, we're twins. We had our guitar with us, and we'd like to perform, and that's how we made our money, and traveled from one place to another. It actually took us 1 year of traveling around the world, and that actually qualified us to join the Circumnavigators Club many years later. And that's a club that you join if you have circumnavigated the world. That's if you've crossed every meridian. Now, Barry Goldwater joined the club by walking around the North Pole. But we did it the hard way. In those days, they had Pan Am Flight 1 and Pan Am Flight 2. So we took our Pan Am Flight whatever going west and circled the globe that way. We were very adventurous. I don't think we could do that, or could do that today. They don't have Pan Am, for one, but we were fearless.
Yes, I'll say. You know what? We forgot one thing that I know you wanted to show about Vietnam, which is your menu that you had from the Officers Club. I just see it lying there, and I know you wanted to talk about that.
Thank you. This is my pride and joy. This is a real menu that we took actually in Vietnam, and it is from the Saigon Enlisted open mess, and it has steaks. New York steak, $1.85, T-bone, $1.75, filet mignon, $1.50, ribeye, $1.50, hamburger, 80 cents, and then they had sandwiches, cheese sandwich for 15 cents, a ham sandwich for 25, roast beef, 30 cents, and we have this menu. We carried it with us for all these years, and my dream was to get John McCain to sign it. Okay, and whoever we could get who was in Vietnam, who might be, sort of important. So the first person we actually got to sign this was John Kerry. When he was running for president, we went to Winslow, the La Posada Hotel, owned by some friends of ours, Alan Effelt and Tina Mian, and we brought the menu, and everyone said, there's no way you're going to get him to sign that menu because he was on a train, and the train was going through town. They barely stopped because they were on their way to Flagstaff, but when they stopped, we actually somehow handed this to them. Actually, there were two black girls, and I'm trying to remember their names, but one of them said, hey, Mr. Kerry, you got to sign this. So he did. He signed it and then handed it back. And then, a little while later, we were in Flagstaff, and General Wesley Clark, who was also running for office, he happened to be there, and we brought up our menu, and he signed it. So we have a picture of Wesley Clark with us and he signed the menu for us. And then I kept asking everybody, does anybody know John McCain? Because here we are in Arizona, he's the senator. Someone must know John McCain. And I somehow could just, he was the elusive one. And then someone called and said, John McCain is going to be talking at a high school, Red Rock High School here in Sedona. And I came over, I ran, I waited till he finished his talk, and I cornered him in the hall, and I handed this to him, and he very, very graciously signed this menu. And I told him that we were in Vietnam with the USO, and he said, thank you for doing what you did. We really appreciate it. And that's him. This is him holding the menu.
Great.
So thank you very much.
Sure.
Yeah, I love this. This is my pride and joy.
All right. So after you circumnavigated the globe and kind of maybe got the wanderlust out of your system for a little while, did you settle down someplace and perform regularly in one place, or?
You know, we did. We went back to Hawaii, and when we were in Hawaii, we were not at. Actually, the first time we were there at the Outrigger Hotel, we were at Davy Jones Locker, and that's when the R&R people were there. The second time we went back, we performed all over Kaneohe. We performed for the Marines and the naval people and everybody, but it wasn't quite the same. And so I ended up marrying someone, and I moved to Vancouver, Canada. And then my sister married someone in Hawaii. And then we were since divorced, got back together again, and we were singing. And we sang in San Francisco and ended up in Los Angeles performing at the Comedy Store for Mitzi Shore. This is when everybody was first starting out, and it was a lot of fun. And since then, let's see, I went to Hong Kong. I lived in Hong Kong, and I learned Chinese and Mandarin. I speak pretty good Cantonese and Mandarin. 我識少少廣東話，原來咧我接觸好多中國人。That's Cantonese. And in Mandarin, the same thing is 我會說一點兒普通話，因為我跟很多中國人說普通話。And the reason I'm saying this is because when my sister passed away, she had written me a letter and said, please speak Chinese whenever you can, and made me proud. So I did.
So what did you say in Chinese?
Oh, I said I speak Cantonese because I meet a lot of Chinese people. And I said I speak Mandarin because I meet a lot of Chinese people. But I know a Chinese joke. Do you want to hear it? Oh, okay.
Sure.
I guess the camera's mine.
Whatever.
Okay, I'm going to translate it. Okay, 我 means I. 我講一個笑話俾你聽. Literally translated, that means I speak one piece of joke, give you listen. 有一個遊客問人點樣去九龍. A tourist asked, how do I get to Kowloon? 點知個個都擰頭, but everybody shook their heads. 原來咧 because 佢講錯咗. He spoke incorrectly. 佢講點樣去Kowloon? He asked, how do I get to the dog kennels? Because Kowloon is Kowloon and dog kennels is Kowloon. 個個都話唔知嘢. So everybody didn't understand him. Because Cantonese is on tones. And I think part of that is from being in Vietnam, where Vietnamese, it's also tonal. And actually, a lot of languages in the Far East are tonal. So I had a passion to learn. It actually took several years. I studied at the University of Hong Kong, and I was a bilingual creative director, copywriter for Chase Compton Advertising in Hong Kong when I went back. So I think this Vietnam experience fueled a passion for the Orient, and I went back whenever I could.
Mm-hmm.